On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1963. We're going to be taking a look at Dick Dale, and he's going to be performing a medley of tracks. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So this is a performance that I have looked at before, at least a couple of years ago, something like that, but at that time I didn't have the capabilities to get the guitar out because I couldn't run two mics at the same time, whereas now I can. So we are going to be diving into this performance and the techniques that Dick is using here, and just attempting to get anywhere near the sound that he got back in the early 60s, this performance 1963. But let's get Dick Dale up on screen and see how he gets on. And there we have it. So the first thing to mention about Dick Dale's playing is that if you want to try and emulate what he's doing and try and play everything exactly the same way, first off, technically it's going to be very demanding, but also the fact that he plays with his strings the other way round. So normally if you've learnt to play guitar the standard way with your low E string the highest up on your guitar and closest to your head, it means that is going to be impossible to play the other way round if you haven't learnt it that way. This is what Dick Dale did, in that he didn't have a left-handed guitar, so he just took a right-handed guitar when he was learning to play, when he first started out, and just flipped it over, so now all the strings were upside down. So this is why, if you are watching this video and you do play the guitar, at that last run that we saw, he's seemingly on his low E string running down the fretboard, just doing the semitone rundown, but he's actually hitting his high E string in terms of pitch, but it's the low E string on his guitar. It's all back to front. When we do have that rundown at the end, it means that Dick is hitting that high E string first, and then he's hitting the B string second in order to get those to ring out together. Whereas if you were to play it in the standard arrangement of strings, of course, you're going to be hitting your B string first, and then the E string is going to follow that. So it's going to give it a totally different sound because it is being played upside down. It is going to be really difficult to play it exactly the same way without doing that, but because I haven't learned to play the guitar the other way round, we're going to try and get a similar sound just playing in the standard configuration of strings, how you would normally play it right-handed. So now that we've got the guitar out, before I start playing the guitar, just to explain that because I've got the mic here to record my voice, you're going to be able to hear my pick on the strings when I'm going like that, doing the alternate picking. You'll hear that scratchy sound, whereas you wouldn't normally be able to hear that. In fact, I'm going to turn off the vocal mic and then wait for a little bit of time for it to die down, so then you can hear what it will sound like without that. And now we should be back with this microphone. So you could probably hear the difference there, that you weren't as aware of that picking sound the second time around because I turned off this mic. But I'm going to need to talk through this, so we'll have to busk our way through it and try and ignore the sound that you can hear on the strings. Just getting into the technique here. It is all about the synchronization between left hand and right hand, and the way that Dick has such control over that alternate picking technique of having this, just hitting that string over and over again with a down, up, down, up, down, up, in terms of the way that we're picking on the right hand, the direction of that pick. And it's so consistent. Interestingly, on this performance, we do have a slight variation to the riff. I might take it back all the way back to the beginning so that we can hear. Okay, so a couple of things. When we're going, we have the little rundown, we've got the, and then, which is a change to the record, because the record goes, and not. So to play those right after each other, you'll hopefully be able to hear the difference between those variations, the two that we have there, in that one sounds a little bit more Egyptian, and this is what this scale and the sound is all about. The Egyptian scale is a Middle Eastern sound, Phrygian dominant, if you want to describe it as that as well in terms of the scale, but that's what we would be going up to here. And that's what gives it that Egyptian sound. It is referred to as the Egyptian scale. The other thing is that with this performance, we're pretty straight down the line in terms of our emphasis. So when we're playing through this, it's all really straight. And on the original record, I think we have more like a definite emphasis, and I'm going to slow that down a little bit so you guys can hear it a bit more clearly. We have like that. So there's definite accents in there. So just to piece that together, and by the way, this is Mersalou, the song, the traditional Middle Eastern folk song, and nobody knew or knows who wrote it. It's just one of those things that got picked up. The first recording of it was in the late 1920s, and it's been worked in various ways by different artists, but Dick Dale was one of those that took this on, applied it to guitar, but also had a trumpet, I think, on that original record, which totally took it to a different place. And it was featured on a Quentin Tarantino movie as well, Pulp Fiction, if you've seen that. And it's just suited the style of the movie so well, and it got a lot of exposure because of that movie. So piecing that all together, the version on the record is more like... and so on and so forth. But here we've got more of that straight picking going on, so we're going, and actually he is holding on the note, I do believe, instead of keeping that alternate picking going all the time. Yeah, so he's just having a little bit of fun with it, not being really strict. So we've got this like that the first time. And just throwing in little picks here or there. And when we then continue, we've got that little rundown. Okay, so we've got this. So he's having quite a straight rundown there. And you can hear in the technique with that alternate picking, it is relentless, and Dick just had total control of that. This isn't something that you can just pick up the guitar and do and get the synchronization between the left hand and right hand. That's another thing that you will notice throughout this performance, is the way that the downstrokes are perfectly synchronized with the notes that do pop out. And whenever he wants the notes to pop out, that pick is always just dead on. You can play this really badly and people might kind of go and try and play it and not have the synchronization, and it's just going to sound bad because it has to be played perfectly with that synchronization in order for it to sound like Dick Dale does it, because his technique's just spot on. And it's no surprise that this guy was a huge influence and inspired so many other guitarists such as Jimi Hendrix, Pete Townsend's in there as well, Eddie Van Halen, because of the alternate picking technique. Like I said, it's right up there technique wise. So this is a kind of guitarist and a kind of technique that Eddie really would have focused in on, because he used this alternate picking technique a lot in his playing. Brian May as well, another name to throw in there. So I'll just play through the sound we've got here in terms of the scale and this Egyptian, this Middle Eastern sound. I'll drone this low E so you guys can hear. Just like that. So it's going to totally change the overall sound of where we are. We're not just in standard pentatonic shape 1 here, even though if you do know pentatonic shape 1, you can start to just place these notes in there. Just remember where they are. Instead of going like that in your pentatonic shape 1, just remember you take your root note, just up a semitone, and then you do that standard position that you would have in pentatonic shape 1, but just move it up 1 fret. And then you're just remembering to add in 1 note there, 1 note there, your major note there, and I'm moving up the guitar here because it means that you just get to repeat shapes. 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4. So it just organizes it a little bit better. And you can go over to that B string and E string if you want to. It just depends. If you're playing 3 notes per string, then you'll be able to speed things up a little bit more easily, especially when you're just repeating shapes. But let's jump back into the video. Okay, so here is a great example of jumping between the strings with that alternate picking. And this is something that is really difficult to do. To just do it on 1 string and go... You can do that. Most people can do that. They might not do it particularly evenly. It takes a lot of work to get it really nice and solid from a rhythmic point of view. But when we've now got this jump over and the notes that we had there, we had that. So there's that little jump like that. So it's a little roll over that first finger. We weren't looking at Dick while he was playing that. Unfortunately, we were just looking at a surfer, but you could hear and you could see when we did join in that he is higher up the fretboard around that 7th fret position. So he's then got that little roll over the first finger and he's swapping strings with that picking. So he's got to keep that organized. And here, doing it in slow motion, like that, and then he's got that kind of thing going on. So, you know, it's just played so accurately but so quickly in order to jump over those strings and get it so concise. It will fly under the radar, but skipping between the strings this quickly is seriously impressive stuff. So once we've got this, we've got something along those kind of lines, which means that again, we're having to change strings from that first part. We've now got and then finishing. So we've got so much going on there in order to get that clean, and the way that Dick is playing through here and just nailing it from a technique perspective, and then just moving on to the next section. But let's jump back into it. Okay, so we had a little section there where we descended down the fretboard, and we've now got this sound. And this is where, if you are catching that B string with that G as you go down, it's going to sound a little bit different just because of Dick's tuning, or not the tuning, but the way that he has strung his guitar being upside down. So it will sound slightly different. We were around the 5th fret of that B string, hitting the high E string with it as well. So we've got this. Something like that. Those aren't the exact notes, but we did have a little rundown there that Dick then played the lower octave of as well, into back down to that low E string. So we've got another bit of technique going on here where we jump into the classic Malagueña. This is a bit of a medley, like I said, but here we've got the jump between strings again. So we've got this. And we've got this little rundown at the end where we break away from that alternate picking just a little bit to get the notes to stand out with that descending run, and then we're back into the notes that I just played there. Actually there, we might have a little variation of it. Let me just check if that happened or not. Okay, so no, he didn't go to that. It's always to that, to the G to the F, rather than the A flat to the G, the A flat to the F to the E. So that's just something to look out for there. It does kind of feel like, because it's so quick, you might even be able to play that A flat and get away with it. But here, Dick is definitely playing through that. So we've got. Like that, jumping down to the G, down to the F, down to the E. But let's get into the final part of the performance. And there we have it. So, right at the end there, this is where the synchronization is so important, but you can really start to hear it clearly in terms of when we jump up to this, and we're just on this high E string. So we've got this, that kind of thing, and we have this descending run, which is like that. And to really slow that down, it means that we're going So there's a definite downstroke in there that has to be happening at exactly the same time as you place your finger down. That's the synchronization that I was talking about. So this is another thing that will fly under the radar, but perfect timing here between the hands so we can hear the rundown all the way down. So we've got this. All the way down to the bottom. And then I think we have a little rundown that Dick plays at the end. I'm not sure what it is, I'd have to watch it again, but it's just descending through that scale. So there's just stacks of guitar technique here that if you were to pick up a guitar and you're learning to play, do not attempt to take this on straight away, because there's so much practice that you need to put in to get the alternate picking nice and even. Even just hitting and getting that alternate picking nice and regimented, so that if you want to, you can do it straight like I did there, going, or you can start putting in the rhythm. And again, these are just different grades of difficulty. When you get the, and you try and get one to just pop out to give those accents in there, again, that's even more practice. And then when you start putting in, moving between strings, that's going to take a lot of practice as well. The most important thing about this is keeping it slow. You don't want to go and try and do it really fast straight off the bat without keeping control. It's all about control, and this is why this sounds so good and you can hear all the notes clearly, is because Dick Dale had this technique down to the point where he was in control the whole time. He never goes out of sync where you can't hear the notes. So it's a fantastic performance from a technical perspective, and this is why guys like Eddie Van Halen looked at guys like Dick Dale, early 60s here, with just so much technique with that alternate picking, that once you start adding that to runs, you just ramp up the difficulty and the amount of time it takes to get to this kind of level. So seriously impressive stuff. But thank you guys for suggesting this video for me to take a look at. It is one of those that I did a long time ago, but since having done that, it has been requested many times afterwards, and I have mentioned to people that I've done it before, but I would rather have a little bit of a demonstration of the technique rather than just talking about it, so you guys can see and maybe get a deeper appreciation of what's going on here with Dick Dale playing through this medley, just with great technique the whole way through. So thank you guys. Keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!